In the 19th century, England joins the worldwide trade. They bring silks and spices from the other colonies, but unfortunately they accidentally bring the zombie virus too, and soon these monsters are all over the country. Millions of people die and rise again as zombies with a hunger for brains.
And the healthy citizens begin studying deadly arts from China and Japan. Eventually the government builds the Grand Barrier, a 100-foot wall encircling London.
100-feet wall
Then they add the
encircling
Royal
London.
Canal.
Then they add the Royal Canal,
surrounds both the
a
city
very
and its
deep
walls.
ditch that
The
surrounds
land
both the
between
city
the
and
wall
its
and the
walls.
ditch is known as
The
the
land
in-between.
between the wall and
in the
the
Second Battle
ditch
of Kent,
is known
one
as
of the
the
bridges
in-between.
across the canal
In
is breached,
the
and the
Second Battle
zombies
of
kill all the
Kent, one of the
villagers
bridges
in the
across the
in-between,
canal is
which
breached,
drives the king
and the
mad.
zombies kill all the
After
villagers
the battle
in
is
the
over,
in-between.
he orders the
Which drives
destruction
the
of all the
king
bridges
mad.
except for one.
After the battle is
Soon
over,
lords and ladies
he
leave
orders the
London to live in
destruction
their
of
own
all the
fortified
bridges
estates.
except for one.
One day Colonel
Soon lords and
Darcy
ladies
arrives
leave
at an
London
estate
to
in
live in their
Hertfordshire
own
County because
fortified
he's heard about a
estates.
bitten person.
One day, Colonel
A guard
Darcy
checks
arrives
his
at an
identity
estate
at
in
the entrance and
Hertfordshire
takes him down a
County
tunnel,
because he's heard
where
about
a
a
priest
bitten
looks at
person.
his bare
A
body
guard
to make
checks
sure
his
he isn't
identity
bitten.
at the
Then he's finally
entrance and
allowed
takes
into
him
the
down a
house,
tunnel
where
where
Mrs.
a
Featherstone
priest
is
looks at his
playing
bare
cards
body
with
to make
friends.
sure
She
he
swears
isn't
there's
bitten.
nobody
Then he's
bitten
finally
here and that
allowed
no zombies
into
have
the
entered her
house where
estate
Mrs.
in years.
Featherstone is
Pretending
playing cards
he wants
with
to play
friends.
too,
She
Darcy
swears
sits
there's
at a
nobody
table
bitten
and takes
here
out a
and
vial
that
of carrion flies.
zombies have entered
He
her
releases
estate
them
in
into the
years,
room while
pretending he
explaining
wants
that they
to
can
play
detect
too.
rotten flesh.
Darcy sits at a
The
table
flies
and
only
takes out
fly
a vial
around
of
for a
carrion
second
flies.
before they land
He
on a
releases
man,
them into
which
the room
means
while
he's slowly
explaining that they
turning
can
into a
detect
zombie.
rotten flesh.
Darcy
The flies
immediately
only fly
breaks
around
his
for a
glass
second
and
before
stabs
they
the
land
guy's
on a
face
man,
before
which means
decapitating
he's
him
slowly
with his
turning
blade.
into a zombie.
Afterward,
Darcy
Darcy
immediately
asks if this
breaks
man
his
could have
glass and
infected
stabs
anyone in the house.
the guy's face before
Featherstone
decapitating him
denies
with
it,
his
so
blade.
Darcy kicks the
Afterwards,
zombie's
Darcy
head off
asks
to
if this man
scandalize
could have
the guests
infected
as he
anyone
heads
in the
out.
house.
However,
Featherstone denies
Featherstone's
it.
daughter
So Darcy
refuses to
kicks
keep
the
on
zombie's
lying
head
and
off
rushes
to
upstairs to check on
scandalize
the
the guests
infected
as he
man's
heads
niece.
out. However,
Unfortunately, it's too late.
Featherstone's
The girl has already
daughter
turned and
refuses to
attacked the
keep on
staff,
lying
and now she attacks
rushes
Featherstone's
upstairs
daughter
to check
too.
on the
Meanwhile,
infected
Mr.
man's
Bennett has
niece.
been training his 5 daughters
Unfortunately,
in
it's
every
too late.
form of weapon
The
and
girl has
martial
already
art known
turned
to
and
man
attacked
so
the
they can
staff,
defend themselves
and
against
now
the
she
zombies.
attacks Featherstone's
However,
daughter
their
too.
mother, Mrs.
Meanwhile,
Bennett, isn't
Mr.
happy
Bennett
about it
has
and
been
wants them to
training
concentrate on
his
getting
5
married.
daughters in every
When
form
Mrs.
of
Bennett hears about an
weapon and
upcoming
martial
dance,
art
she
known to man
convinces her
so they can
husband to let
defend
them go as a break.
themselves against the zombies.
All the sisters are
However,
excited about
their
it
mother,
except for
Mrs.
Elizabeth,
Bennett,
who isn't a
happy
fan of
about it
social
and wants them
gatherings.
to concentrate on getting
They all
married.
put on their nicest
When Mrs.
dresses,
Bennett
but
hears
still
about
make
an
sure to
upcoming
hide
dance,
weapons in them.
she convinces her
Later
husband
at the
to
party,
let them
Bingley
go as
is
a break.
chatting with Darcy,
All the
but
sisters
freezes
are
when he
excited
sees
about it,
Jane,
except for Elizabeth,
instantly falling in
who
love
isn't a
with
fan
him.
of social gatherings.
He asks her to dance,
They all
and they
put
have
on their
lots of fun
nicest
together.
dresses, but still make
Afterward,
sure to hide
Bingley
weapons in
insists
them.
Darcy should
Later
dance
at the
too
party,
and tells him
Bingley
to
is
ask
chatting
Elizabeth,
with Darcy,
but
but
Darcy
freezes when
says
he
she's
sees
tolerable
Jane,
yet not handsome
instantly
enough to
falling in
tempt
love
him.
with her.
Elizabeth
He asks
hears
her
this
to
and
dance,
walks
and
away,
they have
only
lots
to
of fun
accidentally
together.
knock over a bottle and embarrass
Bingley
herself in
insists
front of
Darcy should
everyone.
dance too and tells him
Once
to ask
outside,
Elizabeth,
Elizabeth
but
starts
Darcy
crying,
says she's
but is
tolerable,
interrupted by
yet
Featherstone,
not handsome
who
enough
has
to
become a
tempt him.
zombie.
Elizabeth hears
She can
this and
still
walks
talk
away,
and wants to tell
only
Elizabeth
to accidentally
something.
knock
However,
over a bottle
Darcy
and
shoots
embarrass
her in the
herself
head
in front
first.
of everyone. Once
Hearing the
outside,
shot,
Elizabeth
a bunch
starts
of people
crying
come
but
out
is
to check on
interrupted
them.
by Mrs. Featherstone,
At that moment, another
who has
zombie
become a
appears
zombie.
and the guards
She
ring a
can
bell
still
to
talk
announce
and
an
wants to
attack.
tell Elizabeth
While
something.
most guests rush to
However,
hide,
Darcy
the
shoots her
Bennett
in the
sisters
head
get their
first.
weapons out
Hearing
and
the
start
shot, a
fighting
bunch
the
of
zombies.
people come out to check on
They
them.
fight without
At
mercy,
that moment,
bringing
another
down
zombie
every
appears
creature
and the
with
guards ring
accurate
a bell
strikes
to
of their
announce an
blades
attack.
and well-landed kicks.
While most guests rush
Seeing
to hide,
Elizabeth fight
the Bennett
causes
sisters
Darcy
get their
to start
weapons out
feeling
and start
attracted to her.
fighting the zombies.
Afterward, all
They
the
fight
zombie
without
bodies are
mercy,
burned.
bringing down
When the
every
sisters go home,
creature with
Jane
accurate
can't stop
strikes
talking about
of
Bingley
their
while
blades
Elizabeth
and
won't
well-landed
stop ranting
kicks.
about Darcy's
Seeing
manners
Elizabeth
and pride
fight
while she
causes
trains,
Darcy to start
which
feeling
makes her
attracted
movements
to
and
her.
punches much
After
more vicious.
all the zombie bodies
The
are
next
burned.
day, Jane
When
gets
the
an
sisters go
invitation to
home,
have tea with
Jane
Bingley.
can't stop talking
Mrs.
about
Bennett
Bingley,
makes her take
while
a horse
Elizabeth
instead
won't
of a
stop
coach.
ranting about
That way, if it
Darcy's
rains, she may
manners
be
and
asked to
pride
stay
while
the
she
night.
trains.
On her
Which
way
makes
there,
her
some
movements and
dogs run by
punches
because
much
they're
more
being
vicious.
followed by a
The
zombie.
next day, day, Jane gets an
Jane
invitation
gets ready to shoot,
to have tea with
but her
Bingley.
horse
Mrs.
gets scared
Bennet
and drops
makes
her
her take
before
a horse
running away.
instead of the coach.
Then Jane
That way,
tries
if
to
it rains,
shoot,
she may
but her
be asked
musket
to stay the night.
backfires and hurts
On
her
her
hand.
way there, some
When the
dogs
zombie
run by
finally
because they're
attacks
being
her,
followed by a
Jane
zombie.
takes out her
Jane
knife
gets
and
ready to
fights hand
shoot,
to hand,
but her
quickly
horse
cutting
gets
off the
scared and
zombie's
drops her
hands and
before
slashing
running
its
away.
legs.
Then Jane tries
Once
to
it
shoot,
falls,
but
she
her
kicks
musket
his chest and
backfires and
stomps on
hurts
his
her
head
hand.
to kill him.
When the zombie
As it
finally
begins to
attacks her,
rain,
Jane notices a zombie mother with an infected baby in her arms
cutting
coming
off
for
the
her.
zombie's hands and
The next
slashing
day
its legs.
Elizabeth arrives
Once it
at
falls,
Bingley's
she
house.
kicks his chest and
It
stomps
turns
on
out
his
they
head
found
to kill
Jane
him.
with the flu,
As it begins
so
to
she
rain,
spent the night there
Jane
with a
notices
fever
a
and
zombie
Elizabeth
mother
came
with
to
an
see
infected
her.
baby in her arms
However,
coming
Darcy
for her.
is worried that
The
Jane
next day
may be
Elizabeth
infected,
arrives at
so while
Bingley's
a
house.
doctor checks
It
on her,
turns out they
he
found
releases
Jane
the
with the
carrion
flu.
flies.
So she spent
The
the
little
night there
bugs
with
don't
the
react
fever
to
and
Jane, and
Elizabeth
Elizabeth
came to see
easily
her.
catches them
However,
all.
Darcy is
She
worried
crushes
that
them in
Jane
her
may
fist
be
before
infected.
giving them back to
So while the
Darcy
doctor
with a
checks on
sarcastic
her,
comment.
he releases the carrion
Afterward, Jane
flies.
joins
The
Bingley
little
and his
bugs
guests,
don't
but
react
she
to
turns
Jane,
down
and
their
Elizabeth
invitation to
hastily
play
catches
cards,
them all.
saying she prefers
crushes
to read.
them in her fist before
An
giving them
argument
back to
ensues
Darcy
over
with
what
a
makes a
sarcastic
real woman,
comment.
and Darcy doesn't
Afterward,
know if
Jane
he's
joins
impressed or
Bingley and
hates
his
it.
guests.
That
But
night,
she turns down
Elizabeth
their
secretly
invitation to
watches
play
Darcy
cards,
train
saying
outside.
she
The
prefers
next
to
day,
read.
the rest of the
An
Bennet
argument
sisters and
ensues
mother
over
come to
what
pick
makes
up
a real
Jane and
woman.
Elizabeth.
And Darcy
Bingley
doesn't
wants
know if
them
he
to
is
stay, but
impressed or
Darcy
hates
reminds
it.
him of the risks
That night,
of
Elizabeth
infection.
secretly watches
He has another
Darcy's train
argument with
outside.
Elizabeth,
The next
revealing
day,
he knows she
the
watched
rest
them
of the
last
Bennet
night.
sisters and mother
To
come
keep
to
everyone
pick up
happy,
Jane and Elizabeth.
Mrs. Bennet
Bingley wants
convinces
them to
Bingley
stay,
to
but
throw
Darcy
a ball to
reminds him
lift
of the
people's
risks of
spirits.
infection.
On
He has
their way
another
home,
argument with
they
Elizabeth,
notice that the local
revealing he
orphanage
knows
has
she
fallen,
watched
and
him
now the
last
zombie
night.
orphans
To
are
keep everyone
wandering in the
happy,
woods.
Mrs. Bennet convinces
Sometime later,
Bingley to
Mr.
throw a
Bennet
ball to lift
introduces his
people's
family to
spirits.
cousin Collins,
On their way
who will
home,
get the estate
they
when
notice
Bennet
that the
passes
local
because women
orphanage
can't be heirs.
has fallen, and
During
now
lunch,
the zombie
Collins
orphans
tells
are
them
wandering
that
in
his
the woods.
patroness is Lady
Sometime later,
Catherine,
Mr.
an
Bennet
amazing
introduces his
swordswoman who
family
did
to
wonders
cousin
during the
Collins.
zombie war.
Who will get the
He
estate
also
when
shows
Bennet
interest
passes
in
because
Jane.
women can't
However,
be heirs?
Mrs. Bennet
During lunch,
immediately
Collins
turns him
tells them
down,
that his
saying
patroness
Jane
is
already
Lady
has
Catherine,
Bingley and offers
an amazing
Elizabeth instead.
swordswoman who did
In
wonders
the
during the
afternoon,
zombie war.
Collins and the
He
sisters
also
leave
shows
to visit
interest
their
in
aunt,
Jane.
but they stop
However,
by the
Mrs.
road
Bennet
when they find a
immediately turns
fallen
him down,
carriage with a woman
saying
screaming
Jane
for
already
help.
has Bingley.
The sisters get their
Elizabeth
weapons
instead.
ready, and when the
In the
woman
afternoon,
comes out,
Collins and the
they
sisters
open
leave
fire
to visit
because
their
she's a
aunt.
zombie.
But they stop
Jane
by the road
finishes her
when
by
they
kicking her down
find
the hill.
a fallen
As the
carriage with a
journey
woman
continues,
screaming
Elizabeth
for help.
struggles to carry all
The
the
sisters
weaponry,
get their
but
weapons
Collins
ready,
only puts it back
and
in
when
her
the woman
arms
comes
instead of
out,
helping her.
they open fire
When they
because she's a
arrive in
zombie.
town,
Jane
they notice
finishes
the
her
new
by kicking her
soldiers who
down
will
the hill.
protect this area.
As the journey continues,
Elizabeth meets
Elizabeth
Lieutenant
struggles
Wickham,
to carry
and they
all the
immediately hit it
weaponry.
off.
But Collins
Darcy is
only puts
riding
it back in her
nearby and
arms
gets
instead of
jealous
helping
when he
her.
sees them.
When they
So
arrive
he
in
leaves
town,
without
they
a
notice
word.
the new soldiers
Wickham
who will
tells
protect
Elizabeth
this
that he
area.
and Darcy
Elizabeth
aren't on good
meets
terms
Lieutenant
because of
Wickham,
some
and they
family
immediately
issues
hit
over
it
money.
off. Darcy
That
is
night,
riding
everyone
nearby and
attends the
gets
ball,
jealous
and
when he
Jane
sees
spends
them,
time
so he
with
leaves
Bingley.
without a word.
Elizabeth
Wickham
tries
tells
to chat
Elizabeth
with
that
Wickham,
he and
but Collins drags
Darcy
her
aren't
into
on good
dancing
terms
while
because of
showing
some
lots of
family
energy
issues
and
over money.
enthusiasm.
That night,
Next,
everyone
Darcy asks
attends
to
the
dance
ball,
with her
and Jane
too,
spends
but
time with
Collins
Bingley.
makes the moment awkward
Elizabeth
and
tries
causes
to
them
chat
to walk
with Wickham.
away.
But
On
Collins
his way
drags
out,
her into
Darcy
dancing while
overhears
showing
Mrs.
lots
Bennet
of
talking
energy and
about Jane's
enthusiasm.
future with Bingley and
Next,
keeps
Darcy asks
emphasizing
to
his
dance
money.
with her too.
Meanwhile,
But Collins makes
Elizabeth
the moment
bumps into
awkward
Bingley
and
and they
causes
hear a
them to
noise.
walk away.
When they
On
turn
his
around,
way
they
out,
see a servant being
Darcy
attacked by a
overhears
zombie.
Mrs. Bennet talking
The
about
duo gets some
Jane's
axes and follows
future
them
with Bingley
downstairs.
and
However,
keep
the zombie
emphasizing
grabs
his money.
Bingley and makes him fall.
Meanwhile, Elizabeth bumps into
immediately
Bingley and they
slides
hear a
down and
noise.
knocks the
When
zombie
they turn
down
around,
before
they see a
checking on her
servant
friend.
being attacked
But
by
when
a
she
zombie.
looks up, she
The duo
discovers
gets
all
some
the zombie
axes and
orphans
follows
hiding
them
down there.
downstairs.
She
However, the
asks
zombie
them how they
grabs
sneaked
Bingley
in,
and
and
makes
the
him
kid
fall.
says that their new
Elizabeth
friend showed them the way
immediately
in.
slides down
At that
and
moment,
knocks the
Darcy
zombie down
arrives and
before
starts
checking on her
fighting the
friend.
zombies.
But when she
quickly
looks up,
defeating them
she
all with
discovers
fast
all the
slashes of
zombie
his blade
orphans
and the
hiding
help of
down
a
there.
kitchen knife.
She asks them
A
how they
zombie
sneaked
even
in,
gets pushed into
and the
the
kid
oven.
says that their
Then
new
Darcy
friend
asks
showed
if
them the
Bingley
way
was
in.
bitten and
At
gets
that
ready
moment,
to kill him too.
Darcy
But
arrives
Elizabeth
and
assures him
starts
that
fighting
Bingley
the
just
zombies,
fell.
quickly
Before he
defeating them
leaves,
all with fast
Elizabeth
slashes
tells him that
of
he's
his
an
blade
excellent
and
warrior,
the help
but
of
a
a
bad
kitchen
friend.
knife. A
The
zombie
next
even
day,
gets pushed
Jane
into
gets
the
a
oven.
letter from Bingley
then Darcy
explaining his
asks
family
if
is
Bingley
moving
was
back to
bitten and
London
gets
and that
ready
he'll
to kill
start
him
courting
too.
Darcy's
But
sister
Elizabeth
instead.
assures him that
During lunch,
Bingley just
Collins
fell.
asks Elizabeth
Before
to
he
marry him,
leaves,
but she'd have to
Elizabeth
give up
tells
her
him that
weapons
he's an
and not
excellent
fight
warrior
zombies
but a
anymore.
bad friend.
Elizabeth
The next
turns
day,
him down and rushes
Jane gets a
outside
letter
to burn
from
off her
Bingley,
frustrations by
explaining
training.
his family
Her mother
moving
scolds
back
her
to
for
London
turning
and that
down
he'll
such
start
an
courting
important
Darcy's
proposal, but her
sister
father
instead.
respects her
During
decision.
lunch, Collins
Elizabeth
asks
hugs her
Elizabeth
dad to
marry
thank him, but her mom
because she'd have
keeps
to
on
give up
nagging.
her weapons and
So
not
she
fight
runs into
zombies
the woods
anymore.
to find some peace.
Elizabeth turns him
In
down
the
and
forest,
rushes
Elizabeth
outside to
notices
burn
a
off her
bunch of birds
frustrations by
flying above
training.
4 men
Her
with
mother
top
scolds her
hats.
for turning down
She's
such an
then
important
approached by
proposal,
Wickham, and when
but
she
her
turns
father
around,
respects her
the
decision.
4 men are
Elizabeth
gone.
hugs her dad to
Wickham
thank him,
says he didn't see
but her
anything
mom keeps
before
on
inviting
nagging.
her to a special
So she runs
place.
into the woods to find
Moments
some
later,
peace.
they
In
arrive
the
at a
forest,
church where a priest
Elizabeth
is reading
notices
a
a
sermon.
bunch of birds
When the
flying
crowd
above
turns
4
around,
men with top
Elizabeth
hats.
is shocked to
She's
see
then
they're all
approached by
zombies.
Wickham. And
Wickham
when she
stops her
turns
from
around,
grabbing
the
her
4 men are
weapons, and they
gone.
watch the
Wickham
priest
says he
feed
didn't
them
see
pig's
anything
brains.
before inviting her to a
It
special
turns out
place.
infected people
Moments
don't
later,
fully
they arrive
transform
at a
into
church
zombies
where
if
a
they don't
priest
eat
is
human
reading a
brains,
sermon.
and Wickham thinks
When the
this
crowd
is the key
turns
to
around,
reaching an
Elizabeth is
understanding
shocked to
between
see they're all
zombies and
zombies.
humans. Wickham stops
Elizabeth
her from
agrees
grabbing
and
her
points out they should
weapons,
take
and
the
they watch
idea
the
to
priest
the crown.
feed them
However,
pig's
Wickham
brains.
explains the
It
war
turns out
almost bankrupted
infected
the
people
country, so he has
don't
nobody
fully
to go to for
transform
help.
into zombies if
Sometime
they don't
later,
eat
a
human
friend of
brains.
Elizabeth's tells
And
her
Wickham
she's
thinks
engaged to
this is
Collins
the
and asks
key
her
to
to come as
reaching
her
an
chaperone to meet the
understanding
in-laws.
between zombies and
At
humans.
Collins' estate,
Elizabeth agrees
is
and
amused
points
by a
out they
picture
should take
showing
the idea
Catherine
to the
killing
crown.
Lucifer.
However, Wickham
There's also a
explains the
painting
war
of the
almost
four horsemen
bankrupted
of
the
the zombie
country,
apocalypse,
so he has
who are
nobody
said
to
to
go
appear
to for
when the
help.
end is near.
Sometime later, a friend of
Elizabeth
Elizabeth's
realizes they're the men
tells her
she saw
she's
in the woods.
engaged to
Then
Collins
she
and asks
finally
her
gets to meet Catherine
come
and
as
her
her
daughter.
chaperone.
Elizabeth
to meet
is
the
shocked
in-laws
to
at
see
Collins'
Darcy as
estate.
their two and learns
Elizabeth
he's
is
Catherine's
amused
nephew.
by a picture showing
Soon
Catherine
Wickham
killing
also
Lucifer.
arrives because Elizabeth
Also a
invited
painting
him
of
so
the
he
four
could ask for the
horsemen
money
of
he
the
needs
zombie
for his plan.
apocalypse, who are
Catherine
said
thinks
to
that the
appear when the
idea of
end is
befriending
near.
zombies is ridiculous
Elizabeth
and they would
realizes
never
they're the
listen
men
to
she
a
saw in
leader,
the woods.
but Collins points
Then she
out that the
finally gets
Bible
to meet
says the
Catherine
Antichrist
and her
will
daughter.
lead the undead.
Elizabeth is shocked
Darcy
to see
supports Catherine's
Darcy is there
opinion
too
and
and
gets
learns
angry
he's
when Wickham
Catherine's
mentions
nephew.
his father.
Soon
So he
Wickham
makes the
also
guards
arrives
kick him out.
because Elizabeth invited
tells
him so
Darcy
he could
that he's
ask
as
for the money he
unfeeling as
needs
the
for his
undead.
plan.
That
Catherine
night,
thinks
Darcy
that
spends lots of time
idea
outside
of
training to
befriending
deal with
zombies
his anger.
is ridiculous, and they
Elizabeth
would
can't
never
sleep because her friend
listen
snores
to a
and
leader.
goes for a walk
But
in the
Collins
gardens,
points
where
out
she
that the
finds
Bible
Wickham.
says the Antichrist
He's come to
will
tell
lead
her
the
that
undead.
Darcy made the
Darcy
Bingley family
supports
leave by telling
Catherine's
them that
opinion
Jane
and
is
gets
only after
angry
their
when
money.
Wickham mentions his father.
Wickham also
so
asks
he makes the
Elizabeth
guards
to
kick
run
him
away
out.
together, but
Elizabeth
she
tells
turns him
Darcy
down.
that he's as
Before
unfeeling as
leaving,
the undead.
Wickham reminds her
That
that the
night,
day of
Darcy
reckoning
spends
is
lots
coming.
of time outside
The
training
next
to
day,
deal with
Darcy
his anger.
tells Elizabeth
Elizabeth
that he
can't
considers her
sleep
inferior,
because
but
her
he's still
friend snores
attracted
and
to her.
goes
So he
for a
asks
walk
her
in
to
the
marry him.
gardens where she finds
Elizabeth
Wickham.
turns him
He's
down
come to
and
tell
calls
her
him
that
out for what he did to
Darcy
Jane
made
and
the Bingley
Bingley,
family
only for Darcy
leave by
to
telling
defend his
them that
meddling.
Jane is only
A furious
after their
Elizabeth
money.
kicks him and throws
Wickham
a bunch of
also asks
objects at him
Elizabeth to
before
run away
attacking him
together,
with a
but she
poker.
turns him down.
He quickly
Before
defends
leaving,
himself,
Wickham
and they end up
reminds
in
her
a
that the
compromising
day of
position on
reckoning
the
is
table.
coming.
Their
The next
argument
day,
turns into a
Darcy
full fight,
tells
and they exchange
Elizabeth
a bunch of
that he
blows before
considers
they
her
end up in another
inferior,
awkward
but he's still
position.
attracted to her.
When Elizabeth
So he
says
asks
she'll
her
never
to
marry
marry
him, Darcy
Elizabeth
finally
turns him
leaves
down
and
and
she
calls
ends up
him out
having
for
a
what he did
breakdown.
to Jane and Bingley.
Later,
only
Elizabeth
for Darcy
receives
to
a letter
defend his
from
meddling.
Darcy
A
explaining
furious
himself.
Elizabeth
He says he
kicks
didn't
him
intend
and
to hurt
throws
Jane.
a bunch of
He only
objects at
sent
him
Bingley
before
away to
attacking him with a
protect him
poker.
from Mrs.
He
Bennet.
quickly defends
He also
himself, and they end
explains
up
that he
in
had to
a
kill his own
compromising
father when he
position on the
became a
table.
zombie,
Their
but he still
argument turns
gave Wickham
into
the
a full
money that
fight,
was promised to
and
him.
they exchange a bunch of
However,
blows
Wickham
before
kept
they end
coming
up in
back for
another
more and
awkward
got offended
position.
because Darcy
When
wouldn't
Elizabeth
pay.
says she'll never
Then
marry
Wickham
him,
tried to marry
Darcy
Darcy's
finally
teenage
leaves, and
sister
she
for the
ends up
money,
having a
but
breakdown.
Darcy saved her
Later,
just in time.
Elizabeth receives a letter
Lastly,
from Darcy explaining
informs Elizabeth
himself.
that he
He
respects
says he
her
didn't
feelings
intend
for
to
her.
hurt Jane.
So to forget
He
about
only
his
sent
heartbreak,
Bingley away to
he's gone to London
protect
to
him
fight
from
against
Mrs.
the
Bennet.
latest zombie
He
attack.
also
He
explains
thinks someone
that he
is
had
leading
to
the zombies
kill his
because
own
the
father
attacks
when
were
he
too
became a
organized.
zombie. But he
When
still
Elizabeth
gave Wickham the
returns
money
home,
that was promised
she's
to him.
horrified to learn that
However,
Wickham has run away
Wickham
with
kept
Lydia,
coming
the
back for
youngest
more
sister.
and got offended because
She
Darcy
guesses
wouldn't
that
pay.
he must have taken
Then
her to
Wickham
the zombie
tried to
church.
marry Darcy's
That
teenage
night,
sister
Elizabeth
for the
is
money,
visited by
but
Catherine,
Darcy saved her
who
just in
announces
time.
Darcy will marry
Lastly,
her daughter
Darcy
if
informs
Elizabeth doesn't
Elizabeth
marry
that he
him
respects
first.
her feelings for him.
Elizabeth is
So
seeing
to
Darcy
forget
in
about
better
his
eyes
heartbreak,
nowadays, but
he's
she's
gone to
still
London
unsure
to fight
about a
against the
relationship.
latest zombie
So
attack.
Catherine
He thinks
challenges her
someone is
to a
leading the
duel against
zombies
her
because the
daughter.
attacks were too
The
organized.
man is big and strong,
When Elizabeth returns
so he throws
home,
quite dangerous
she's horrified
punches
to
and
learn that
easily
Wickham
blocks
has run away
Elizabeth's
with Lydia,
attacks.
the youngest
She refuses
sister.
to
She
give up
guesses
even
that
when
he
he
must have
chokes
taken
her and
her to the
slashes his
zombie
face
church.
before breaking
That
his
night,
arm.
Elizabeth is
With an
visited by
excellent kick,
Catherine,
she throws
who
him
announces
against a beam that breaks
Darcy
and
will marry
causes
her
part of
daughter
the
if
ceiling to
Elizabeth
drop
doesn't
on
marry
him.
him first.
Catherine
Elizabeth
corners
is seeing
Elizabeth with
Darcy
her
in better
swords, but
eyes
admits she
nowadays.
respects her resolve.
But she's still
At
unsure
that
about a
moment, Mr.
relationship.
Bennet enters the
So
room to
Catherine
forbid
challenges her
Elizabeth from rescuing her sister because it's too dangerous.
The man is big and strong,
Jane volunteers
so
to help, but Elizabeth doesn't want her to come because she wants her to
Elizabeth's
protect the
attacks.
family.
She refuses to
Catherine
give
then
up even
offers
when
to
he
take
chokes
care
her,
of the Bennets
and
in her
slashes
estate
his
so
face
Jane and
before breaking
Elizabeth
his
can
arm
leave.
with an excellent kick.
When the duo
She
reaches
throws
the
him
bridge,
against a beam
the
that
soldiers
breaks
block them and inform
causes
them
part of
they've
the
set up
ceiling to
lots of
drop on him.
explosives.
Catherine
The
corners
bridge will
Elizabeth
be
with her
blown up
swords, but
tomorrow at
admits she
dawn to
respects
stop
her
the zombie
resolve.
horde in
At
London
that
from
moment,
invading
Mr.
the rest
Bennet
of the
enters
country.
the room to forbid
The sisters ignore
Elizabeth
them
from
and
rescuing
continue
her
to move
sister because
forward.
it's too dangerous.
Meanwhile,
Jane
Bingley is on the
volunteers to help,
battlefield and throws a
but
bomb at the zombies trapped
Elizabeth
in a
doesn't
trench.
want her to
But
come
when
because
he's
she
about to
wants her
leave,
to
a
protect
creature
the
grabs
family.
him by his scarf.
Catherine then offers to
Luckily,
take
Jane
care of the
arrives
Bennets
just
in
in
her
time to
estate,
cut the scarf
so
and
Jane
push
and
him away
Elizabeth
from the
can
explosion.
leave. When the duo
Nearby,
reaches the
Darcy
bridge,
kills another
the
zombie
soldiers
with a
block
sword,
them
only
and
to
inform
find a
them they've
bunch of
set up
undead
lots of
hands reaching up from the
explosives.
ground.
The bridge will be
A
blown up
huge
tomorrow
zombie
at
is
dawn
about
to
to
stop
attack
the
him from behind.
zombie horde
However,
in London
Elizabeth
from
kills it
invading
first with an
the rest
axe.
of the country.
She
The
explains
sisters
they're
ignore
standing
them
on a
and
zombie
continue to move
graveyard,
forward.
so they start stabbing the
Meanwhile,
ground to kill
Bingley
the
is on the
awakening
battlefield and throws a
Afterward,
bomb at the
Elizabeth
zombies
tells him
trapped
about
in
her
a
sister
trench.
being at
But
the
when
church,
he's about to
and
leave,
Darcy has
a
to
creature
inform her
grabs
that
him
the
by his
building was
scarf.
burned down 5 days
Luckily,
ago.
Jane
so her
arrives
sister
just
is
in time
probably
to
dead.
cut the scarf and
When
push him
Darcy
away from
leaves,
the
it's
explosion.
revealed he was lying.
Nearby, Darcy
He
kills
told
another
Elizabeth
zombie with
that
his
the
sword,
church was down
only
to keep her
find
away
a bunch
from
of
danger,
undead
but
hands
the building
reaching
is
up from the
actually
ground.
fine.
A huge
He
zombie
sneaks
is about
around
to
the
attack him
church and
from
sees
behind.
the 4 horsemen
However,
of the apocalypse
Elizabeth
guiding
kills
a
it
horde of
first with an
zombies.
axe. She explains
Meanwhile,
they're
Elizabeth
standing on the
notices
zombie
Bingley
graveyard,
keeps looking
so
at the
they
road
start
that goes to
stabbing
the
the
church
ground
and
to
not at
kill
the
the
bridge
awakening
where he's
bodies.
supposed to oversee
Afterward,
the
Elizabeth
detonation.
tells him about her
This
sister
makes her
being at the
realize
church.
that Darcy
And
lied,
Darcy
and
has
she
to inform
immediately
her that
leaves
the
on her
building
horse.
was burned down
In
5
the
days
military
ago.
camp,
So her
a man
sister is
discovers
probably
that someone
dead.
has stolen
When
all the
Darcy
brains
leaves,
from
it's
the dead
revealed
soldiers.
he was lying.
Back
He
to
told
Darcy.
Elizabeth that
He
the
enters
church
the
was
church
down
through
to
a
keep
back
her
door
away
and
from
finds
danger,
Lydia chained
but
up.
the building is
On
actually
a wall,
fine.
he discovers
He
Wickham's
sneaks around
plans
the
to
church
attack
and
London
sees the
with the
4
zombies.
horsemen of the
At
apocalypse
that moment,
guiding
Wickham shows
a
up and
horde of
Darcy offers
zombies.
him money in exchange
Meanwhile,
for Lydia,
Elizabeth
but Wickham
notices
turns it down
Bingley
and opens
keeps
fire.
looking at the
The
road that
bullet
goes
hits
to
a
the
gate
church,
and the noise
and
alerts the horde,
I'm at the
who
bridge where he's
immediately
supposed
burst into the
to
room.
oversee the detonation.
It turns out
This
Darcy
makes
fed
her
them the
realize that
soldier
Darcy
brains
lied,
to make them
and she
violent.
immediately leaves on
While
her horse.
Wickham tries to
In the
defend
military
himself,
camp,
Darcy
a man
breaks the
discovers
chain
that
to
someone
rescue
has
Lydia.
stolen all the
At the
brains
same
from the
time,
dead
his horse
soldiers.
pulls the bars
Back
from
to
the
Darcy.
window so his master
He
can
enters
escape.
the church through a back
Once
door and
outside,
finds Lydia
Darcy
chained
puts
up on
Lydia
a wall.
on his horse
He
and
discovers
sends her to the
Wickham's
bridge.
plans to attack
Then he
London
brings
with the
down a
zombies.
couple of zombies
At that
before he's
moment,
confronted
Wickham
by
shows
Wickham.
up and Darcy
So a
offers
sword
him
duel
money in
ensues
exchange
while
for
the zombies
Lydia.
run out
But
of the
Wickham
church.
turns it down
In
and
the
opens
distance,
fire.
Elizabeth
The bullet hits a
continues to
gate and
ride
the
and
noise
stares
alerts
at
the
London
horde,
burning in
who
horror.
immediately burst into
At
the
that
room.
moment, she
It
sees
turns
Lydia
out
and
Darcy
calls her
fed them
name,
the soldiers'
but she
brains
isn't
to
hurt.
make them violent.
The zombie
While
horde appears
Wickham tries
behind
to
her and
defend
Elizabeth
himself,
takes out her sword
Darcy
to
breaks
cross
the
it.
chain to rescue
Lydia makes it to the
At
bridge
same
right
time,
before they
his
start
horse
getting
pulls
ready
the
for
bars
detonation.
from the window so his
Back at
master
the
can
church,
escape.
the
Once
men
outside,
continue to
Darcy
fight and
puts
Darcy
Lydia on his
manages
horse
to
and
stab
sends
his
her to the
opponent.
bridge.
However,
Then he
Wickham
brings
is
down a
fine
couple of
because he's
zombies
been
before he's
undead all
confronted
along
by
and has
Wickham.
repressed his urge
So a
for
sword
brains,
duel
thanks to
ensues
his
while
hate
the
for
zombies
Darcy.
run out of the church.
Wickham explains
In the
the 4
distance,
horsemen
Elizabeth
have risen
continues
from
to
hell,
ride
and
and
he's the
stares at
Antichrist
London
that will
burning
lead
in
them.
horror. At
He
that
starts
moment,
choking
she
Darcy
sees
and
Lydia
gets ready
and
to
calls her
decapitate
name,
him,
but she isn't
only for
hurt.
Elizabeth to
The
stop
zombie
him by
horde
cutting off
appears
his arm
behind
and
her.
trampling him with
And
her
Elizabeth
horse.
takes out
Afterward,
her
the couple
sword to
rides
cross
away
him.
on Elizabeth's
Lydia
horse while
makes
the
it to the
zombie
bridge
horde
right
chases
before they
after
start
them.
getting ready for
They
detonation.
make it to the bridge
Back
right
at the
as the
church, the
soldiers
men continue
activate
to
the
fight,
bombs,
and
the
Darcy
sisters
manages
think
to stab his
Elizabeth is getting
opponent.
killed by the
However,
resulting
Wickham is
explosions.
fine because he's been
However, when the
undead
smoke
all
clears,
along and
Elizabeth
has
is crawling on the
repressed
rubble.
his urge for
She
brains.
finds Darcy's
Thanks to his
unconscious
hate
body
for
near her and
Darcy.
cries as she
Wickham
kisses him and
explains
says
the
she
4
loves him.
horsemen have
A
risen
few
from
days
hell,
later,
and he's
Bingley
the
asks Jane to marry him,
Antichrist
and
that
she
will lead
obviously
them.
says yes.
He starts choking
Darcy
Darcy
wakes
and
up
gets
from
ready
his
to
coma and
decapitate
tells
him,
Elizabeth he heard
only
her on
for
the bridge.
Elizabeth to
He
stop him by
proposes to
cutting
her
off
and she
his
says yes
arm
before
and
they
trampling
kiss.
him with her horse.
The couples get
Afterward,
married
the couple
together and
rides
Collins
away on
officiates.
Elizabeth's
Everyone is
horse
happy
while the
until they
zombie
see
horde
Wickham approach with
chases
a
after
zombie
them.
horde.
They make it to the bridge
And
right as the
continue to
soldiers
fight, and
activate
Darcy
the
manages
bombs.
to stab his
And the
opponent.
sisters think Elizabeth
However,
is getting
Wickham is
killed by the
fine because
resulting
he's been
explosions.
undead all along and
However,
has
when the
repressed his
smoke
urge
clears,
for brains,
Elizabeth is
thanks to his
crawling
hate
on the
for
rubble.
Darcy.
She finds
Wickham
Darcy's
explains the 4 horsemen
unconscious
have
body
risen
near
from
her
hell, and he's the
and
Antichrist
cries
that
as
will
she
lead them.
kisses him and says
He
she
starts
loves
choking
him.
Darcy
A
and
few
gets
days
ready
later,
to decapitate
Bingley
him,
asks
only for
Jane to
Elizabeth
marry
to
him, and
stop
she
him by
obviously
cutting
says
off his
yes.
arm and trampling
Darcy
him with
wakes
her
up from his
horse.
coma and tells Elizabeth
Afterward,
he
the
heard
couple
her on the
rides
bridge.
away on
He
Elizabeth's
proposes
horse
to
while the
her, and
zombie
she
horde
says yes
chases
before
after
they
them.
kiss. The couples get married together, and Collins officiates. Everyone is happy until they see Wickham approach with a zombie horde. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.